But yeah, what do you think, Dan?
I think it's a sticky issue. Obviously, people don't like it, but in this case, you know, I haven't played the game yet. It makes me think that, you know, that's probably not the only Prothean you're going to come across. There's going to be others in there.
Exactly, that was my point as well that I was trying to make in my aforementioned arguments on Twitter, was that everyone's saying how vital it is to the story because it's a Prothean, but it's a Prothean squad mate, which is like just this guy who's going to follow you around with a different skin. There's one mission on Eden Prime which is kind of going to obviously be story driven somehow, but I'm sure there's going to be a shed load of Prothean based content in the story of the game. Like,
yeah, it's been leading up to it.
Exactly. Like, the possibly the only bad thing about it is the spoiler of the Prothean, but
yeah, I'm not too pissed off about that either. I'm kind of excited to see what they're like.
Oh yeah, exactly.
It's not going to stop me buying the game. It's not going to stop me buying the DLC, because actually I'd quite like to do it on my first playthrough and not have to go back through, and I probably wouldn't bother playing it again.
This is another one of my arguments, was like, I played so first, just to put my viewpoint across, it's pretty much the same as Dan's. I don't really care. Like, everyone's saying EA done this, BioWare done that, they've cut parts from the game, they're just trying to make extra money, all this kind of stuff. But BioWare are not going to sacrifice the integrity of their storyline
for a few bucks.
Exactly. And I don't see the problem with there being DLC on day one, because a lot of the DLC, such as the Kasumi DLC for Mass Effect 2, which I bought, I'd already finished the game by the time I played that DLC, so I gained a new squad mate, which was then fairly useless. I played one mission, which was the Kasumi mission, with her in my squad. Well, she wasn't really in my squad then, to be fair. I was still attaining her at the start anyway, and then she was kind of rendered useless because I'd already finished the game. So if it's extra content like they say it is, and I mean, no one can say that that's not true, no one can say that that is true. I mean, sure, we get a lot of marketing bullshit thrown about, as happens in every single industry in the world. Politicians being the worst for it. But no one can say that that's not the case. No one can say that this wasn't extra content that was developed. And I would like to ask what people would have thought if it was included in the collector's edition and there was no other way for people to buy it.
Yeah, that I would have been pissed off then.
Especially
since I wouldn't have been able to get the collector's edition.
Oh yeah, because you can't get the collector's edition anymore anywhere. And like you say, I think I would have been more annoyed if they hadn't released Day 1 DLC, because there would have been that in the collector's edition and I would have had no other way to find it. So they've released it on Day 1 and they still lose out. Like, they're still wrong. I mean, you can't please the internet, everybody knows that.
No, you can't. You can never get it right. But
if
you don't like it, don't buy it.
No, exactly. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to play it. And my other thing was, if you don't like the fact that there's Day 1 DLC, buy it in 3 months' time if it's that much of a problem. Like, you don't have to buy it now.
Although you probably will get the most out of it if you buy it.
Well, yeah, it's actually better to be able to buy it now in this case. And
no, there's certain fairly famous people on the internet who are calling for a boycott of Mass Effect 3. Now, I think that's just stupid. He said himself he absolutely loved the first 2 games. He's really excited about Mass Effect 3, but because of the Day 1 DLC, he's not going to buy it. And loads of people listen to him. Lee met him in the queue for Eurogamer, and
I'm not going
to
withhold any names here. We're talking about Total Biscuit, which I have great respect for what he does, and I mean, just this weekend I watched about 20 hours of him commentating the Assembly StarCraft tournament in Helsinki. But that particular video, it was made before BioWare said anything, and as are a lot of the comments that are coming around the internet on this subject, a lot of it is pure assumption. Nobody's played the DLC yet. Nobody's played the game yet. Nobody can say that this is vital story content. Just because it's a Prothean squad mate.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, fair enough, it's Eden Prime and the time is there, but no one says that Eden Prime isn't going to be in the game at all if you don't have the DLC. Nobody is saying that there's going to be no other Protheans. The story is going to be complete. I don't care what anybody says.
No.
It's, you know, it's, BioWare are just not going to do that. I don't care. And if people don't buy it because of it, then ask yourself, do you think Mass Effect will be worth the £40 or whatever it costs? About probably 30. You can pick it up on the PC, I would imagine. Even if it is 40, do you think Mass Effect 3 is going to be worth £40? And if you say no to that,
don't buy it.
Don't buy it. And if you do say no to that, I would like to bet you're wrong.
Yeah, because from what I've played of it so far, it's going to be such a fantastic game.
The demo is amazing. The rest of the series is amazing. And the DLC isn't going to cost £10, Troll. No way is the DLC going to cost £10.
No, it's $10. It was advertised for on X. Well, it wasn't $10. It's whatever it equates to $10. So it's going to be £8 at the most.
Well,
on the 360 version.
Yeah, the rest of the BioWare DLC was like about £5 or £6, I think, which I imagine is what it will be. Yeah. And do I think that another mission and a new squad mate and alternate costumes for all my characters is worth £5 or £6? Yeah, probably. In BioWare's case, in Mass Effect case, yeah.
Yeah.
So
even if it's £10, I'll probably still buy it. If
the game is worth £40 and the DLC is even worth £10, if Dan says, I don't see the problem. Now, I'm not advocating day one DLC in all circumstances. There's plenty of cases where it's on the disc and it's a bit sketchy, and they're just putting something behind a paywall.
Yeah, you're just downloading a key to access it, basically. That I have issues with. But if it does turn out that the download for the DLC is, a few hundred kilobytes, then I'll be pissed off.
Perhaps.
Because then it is obviously on the disc. But I doubt it is, so I'm going to be fine with it.
I'm fine with it. Nothing's going to stop me playing Mass Effect 3, man. I don't care. I don't care to say it. I'm going to be playing it.
On the off chance that he is listening, Total Biscuit, don't be a fool. Buy the game. You'll probably get given a review copy anyway. Play the game, you'll love it.
Like, he'll play it, man. He'll play it. I don't care. Everyone will play it. I just don't see. I'm talking like I said, assumption and entitlement at the beginning of the show. If if BioWare have made something that they feel is worth $10, why should they not sell it at $10 just because of the time they made it? Like,
it's like buying a car. You buy a car new, you choose your extras. You don't think you're entitled to those extras. They cost more money.
Well, no, that was what I said on Twitter the other day. Like, if you want a GPS in a car, you don't say, what, you're willing to say you have the capability of putting a GPS in it, but you didn't. You're going to make me pay extra. Like, what do you mean you can put leather seats on it, but you haven't on mine because I didn't pay for them? Like, if they've made extra content, which... this is what they're saying they have. I mean, like I say, I can't confirm or deny whether that's true or not.
Yeah.
And even, like, maybe they just didn't mention it at all and released it in, like, a month's time. Nobody would have said a fucking word.
Even 2 weeks later, no one would have said a word.
And everybody would have finished the game and they would have got nothing out of having an extra squad mate unless they played through a second time. And
I would have said, DLC was great, but I'd loved it on day one.
Yeah, it's like I can't wait for StarCraft 2, the next version, to come out. If Blizzard had said to me, well, we're going to release Wings of Liberty today for $60 or whatever it was, and we're going to release Heart of the Swarm tomorrow for $60. I would have said, fucking awesome, man. Like, yeah, bring it
I'll have
on.
both.
Where's the Protoss one? Come on, like, sort it out, Blizzard. What's going on? I don't know, man. I think ultimately it's just all a discussion about value at the end of the day, and
yeah,
it's up to the consumer in each case to decide whether they think it's good value or not. And if it's not, then obviously don't buy it. But don't assume that it's not worth buying Mass Effect 3 because you don't think you should buy the DLC, because like, how ignorant would it be of BioWare to like spoil the story of their game? Not I say spoil, not as in a spoiler alert type sense, but to ruin the integrity of their game storyline just to make an extra $10. Like, for a company that is so heavily reliant on story-driven games, which is always
their fan base.
Exactly. I mean, the story is why people play BioWare games, and the story is why both me and you are so fucking keen to play Mass Effect 3. Like,
why?
It's. I mean, if anybody is asked what their favourite parts about Mass Effect, it's most certainly going to be the story in every case, and I just don't believe that BioWare would risk the integrity of that story for anything, even if it was EA saying, "Oh yeah, make some extra money." I don't buy it. I don't, and dare I say, they probably deserve the extra $10 anyway. Like, I'm sure the content will be worth that money. Like,
well, we shall soon find out.
We shall soon find out. That day is creeping ever sooner, Dan.
I know, it's what, 9 days?
Yup.
Not that.
No, it's actually, there's a leap year this year, Dan.
Ah, bollocks.
It's further away than you thought. And I think it's actually it's 9 days plus 1, so it's 10 days. It's 10 days. So yeah.
Yeah, good at maths there.
Yeah, I'd said last week, Dan, never do maths when you're actually being recorded or live.
Yeah.
On the internet, because you will get caught out.
It's 12
Troll
days.
says nice maths, bro, in the chat room there. And he's saying what's in the chat there, that you keep saying BioWare, but it's EA pushing this stuff. Perhaps it is.
Perhaps it is, but they didn't, you know.
It's not like
they
BioWare
could have turned
have
around
made
and said
DLC
no
before. Like, do you know what I mean? BioWare have made DLC before. It's not a new idea. Like, I can't understand. I don't know whether it's I'm looking at it from a biased perspective, because BioWare are making. See, he's saying BioWare would probably have wanted to include the Prothean and actually make it part of the story. I'm sure it will be part of the story. I mean,
regardless of the DLC, they will be there.
A DLC gives you the squad mate, which is just a guy who follows you around. He doesn't really do anything. Like,
yeah, and the missions, the extra missions with some story in them, are going to be you getting that squad mate.
It's how you retain that character.
It's not going to be game changing, really.
It's definitely not. And
it's
having
just,
like,
you know, you'll get a bit of his history.
Yeah, and having that particular Prothean's history, like, not the whole Prothean race, not the whole Prothean technology, not the whole Mass Effect series is just going to be like inconsistent because you've got a Prothean guy who walks behind you. Because, I mean, that's pretty much what a squad mate does.
Yeah.
You know, you can go and talk to them and they'll give you some kind of pointless
missions to do, get an upgrade for your ship or something,
or they'll give you some generic conversational sentence or something. Like, they're really not integral. A squad mate isn't integral to the story as such. Well, they are. The main ones are like Miranda and, you know, all the other ones that you have in Mass Effect 2 and such.
Rex isn't important to me because he's dead.
But it's the the DLC ones, like Kasumi, had no bearing on the story whatsoever. It was completely separate. Like, can only assume this is going to be the same scenario here. Like, I don't know. Like, I think we kind of hit the nail on the head when we both agree that we'd be more annoyed if the collector's edition had DLC that we weren't able to get.
Yeah, but there are times, I must admit, when I'm annoyed when you get a collector's edition and then that DLC is available at the same time for the non-collector's edition, and it's cheaper. That pisses me off.
Do you know what else actually comes with the Mass Effect collector's edition aside from that? There's like an art book or something. Is there?
Yeah, you get an art book. You get a robotic dog that I guess follows you around, kind of like dog meat. I guess. You get a physical patch that you could sew onto your man bag or your blazer or God knows what. I'd probably just keep it in the tin. I think it comes with a tin. You get some Avatar stuff on the 360 version and no soundtrack, which is a bit of a shame. Because the soundtracks have always been quite good.
No soundtrack, that sucks.
Yeah. So,
I guess EA made them do that as well, so we have to buy the soundtrack.
Probably. Yeah,
I reckon. And more comments in the chat room saying, but they could have made it into part of the story or added an extra mission if they didn't take the time out of development to make the DLC. Or they could have released it as a free DLC if people who bought it knew, which they could have done.
Yeah, but as far as we know, they didn't take time out of development to make the DLC.
No, that's as
the
far as we
entire
know.
Point.
And even if they did, they said a separate team made the DLC as well. And even if they did take time out of development to make the DLC, I don't think that any of us, like even you and I, understand the development process of a game and the value of time to the final product and the time put in. We don't understand how much time is worth the full game and how much time is worth DLC and how much man hours are put into each part and how that works out in their overall strategy for the game's success, if you see what I'm saying.
Yeah, the business plan.
We don't understand that stuff, and we never will, because that's the kind of stuff that's never really going to be revealed to the public. And does it, just because it was made now, does it mean it doesn't have a value aside from the full game? Because the biggest thing I've heard that it is everything made before release day should be included for free.
Yeah.
But I don't quite get it.
No, I don't. Everything that is promised in the release should be included.
Yeah, which is Mass Effect 3, and we're going to get Mass Effect 3 regardless.
Yeah, and I want my bikes in test drive because that was promised in the game and they're still not there. But I don't think I should have to pay for that. But when it comes to Mass Effect, I'm quite happy. It's an extra character. It's a Prothean. There's some stuff going to it. And I don't think I would have a better Mass Effect if they'd included that in the game on day one. I think I'd have exactly the same Mass Effect, possibly slightly worse. Don't know why it'd be slightly worse, but I've got a funny feeling it would be if they tried to cram in extra and then waited the 3 months it takes for debugging and verification by the consoles, which makes you also wonder why it takes so long for us to get dodgy PC ports when they've got they've got all the time, because Microsoft and Sony take a long time verifying the games. Can't they be sorting the PC version out then?
Yeah, see, that's what Capcom were talking about that not so long ago, actually, and how that they don't, there's obviously massive delays with Street Fighter 4 and stuff, the PC versions.
Yeah.
And they're saying how they don't even start the PC version until the other version is released, which just kind of pissed me off, really. Why not? Why not? But it's actually a decent PC port. And the Mass Effect 3 PC version is a decent PC port. Well, it's not even a PC port. It's a PC version.
Yeah.
As BioWare games always are. I don't think it even supports a controller. It has to be played with keyboard and mouse.
Quite often they'll even do separate PS3 and 360 versions.
They certainly will.
Yeah. Which is why they tend to always run on
But yeah,
everything
games
quite well.
now. Troll is kicking up a rant in the chat room, and he's saying that a lot of his stuff is games in general rather than just Mass Effect, which is all I can say about this subject I'm discussing now. Is I'm talking about Mass Effect. Like,
Yeah.
There's plenty of other scenarios where I feel that people are doing things just to make a bit of extra money, and like I'd almost guarantee that some of these Modern Warfare map packs are developed before the game release, or at least like designed layout wise and stuff before the game releases. Like, I'd almost guarantee it. Like, and I'd almost guarantee that many games have DLC developed before release day, whether it releases on release day or whether it releases even a year later. I dare say that the idea for the DLC is there, and
Of course
they've started work on it, and
it's become so expected for any game to have DLC now that it's, you know, they'd be stupid not to.
well, yeah, exactly, and it's and now Troll is obviously saying Modern Warfare is a perfect example of bad design, and Fodder says some of the maps are taken from previous games. Exactly. Yep, they sure are. It's redesigned.
Changing the game slightly, we touched on it last week about Civ 5. Loads of people who complain about the DLC for that because it's reintroducing something that was in previous games, which is the religious win, basically. But they're choosing to miss out the fact that you get 9 new civilizations, 9 new wonders, 3 original scenarios, 27 new units, 13 new buildings, new technologies and resources. The civilizations include Carthage, the Netherlands and the Celts and the Mayans. They've all got unique traits and buildings, and it also includes 9 new leaders, including William I, Prince of Orange, Boadicea and someone else. And there's a really cool new scenario which has a Victorian science fiction kind of theme going to it. That all sounds awesome to me, and yet people are going, "Oh, that should have been in day one." Really, piss off.
You can't win. You can't win.
I know.
Yes, Modern Warfare 2 had maps taken from COD 4, and COD 4 had maps taken from COD 2. Chinatown, was it called Chinatown? I don't remember. Chinatown was Carentan reskinned with Chinatown type things. Did you know that? Now we're going back.
Yeah.
So, anyhow, on that note, Modern Warfare, Mass Effect, whatever game we're talking about, Arkham City with the Catwoman stuff, they've just got to be taken on a case-by-case basis. And as I was saying again to somebody on Twitter the other day, we're kind of in this transitional period between expansion packs and discs and downloadable content and digital distribution, and it's going to take a bit of publishers and developers feeling around and trying to find what does work for them and the consumer.
Yeah.
And within that transitional period, there's going to be people that do it good and there's going to be people that do it bad. There's going to be people that stick with the older model and there's going to be people that try new things. And the only way that as consumers we can decide what is wrong, what is right, what is good value is to buy it or not buy it. So, do you think that wraps it up well enough, Dan?
I think it does.
I think it does too.